All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Post Match Live on this wonderful December 26, 2017, Boxing Day as it's known in most of the Western world, I guess. I don't know. It's Boxing Day in the UK, and it's the day after Christmas in the US, which is Shopping Day and Return Your Presents Day. So we're here to talk briefly about Chelsea's 2-0 win over Brighton to begin the second half of the season on the right foot, on the correct foot. Unlike our good friend Jose Mourinho way up north in Manchester, where he dropped 2 points to Burnley, which incidentally is how Chelsea began the first half of the season. By dropping all 3 points to Burnley at home. So that means we are only 1 point off second place, and that's despite all the silliness that has gone on this season. Although, as our former overlord Graham Mackery just pointed out in our Slack channel, Manchester City's amazing season is kind of blowing everything out of perspective. You know, both United and Chelsea are having very good seasons, which in most years would be good enough for a title challenge. This year, not so much. But that's just the way it goes, I suppose. You know, we can crown City the champions. They play tomorrow, I want to say, or sometime soon. But you know, there's a good fight to be had for second place and top four, which doesn't sound very ambitious. You know, sounds a little Arsenal-y, but you know, it's what we got to fight for. And just because we can't win the title doesn't mean we should give up on the top four, which is a big enough, solid enough reward that needs to happen, really. Solid win today, 2-0 with goals from Alvaro Morata. His connection with Azpilicueta once again paying off. It probably should, if there was a Premier League Hall of Fame, they should probably put that connection in there. I think they're on course right now to become the most like iconic, you know, pairing Aspi to Morata in like the last decade of the Premier League. The most assists from one player to another. I think they're one behind the current record, which is 7. So they already have 6 halfway through the season. That's not bad. Chelsea struggled for much of the first half. Not in so much, you know, playing well or whatever. It's just the same old story we've seen many times over the past month, 2 months. You know, lots of possession, a lot of decent play, a lot of good play, even lots of control. Brighton obviously saw the Everton match from a few days ago, so they were like, "This worked. Let's do this as well." If there was any doubt about their intentions, they left their 2 best attacking players on the bench in Pascal Gross and Anthony Knockaert. So yeah, they you know, their intentions were to play with defensive wingers, 2 lines of 4 and 5, so a line of 4 and a line of 5, leaving 1 player up top. So it was pretty similar, but of course the difference was Chelsea were playing with an actual striker this time, unlike against Everton and in the previous games with the 3 smalls. It didn't really reap any rewards in the first half. Had about 11 shots, a couple decent ones. Bakayoko, as I'm sure many have pointed out by now, has missed a few more good chances. People aren't not going to confuse him with a natural goal scorer, that's for sure. There was the one where he didn't quite react in time with Rudiger's backheader at the far post, so it just bounced off of him and went wide. And there was one in the second half where he just kind of shot completely wide, which he's got to do better there, right? As the pundit cliche goes. He's got to do better. But unfortunately, Bakayoko missed a couple good chances, which could have made the score line even less close than it already was. So anyway, let's talk about the lineup a little bit. Courtois in goal as usual. A back three that we haven't really seen, I want to say, at least in a long time. Rudiger, Cahill, and Azpilicueta across the back. The surprise was obviously Christensen not being in the middle, and that was due to illness apparently, as Chelsea tweeted out about 30 minutes before the game. I do wonder why they don't do that earlier. The lineups come out at the top of the hour, an hour before the game, and then they wait 30 minutes before tweeting out what actually happened to Christensen. It wouldn't be that hard to let people know right away as to what's happening there. So we were in the dark for 30 minutes. So we assumed it was injury or illness. Not another David Luiz situation. But Christensen was missing completely from the match day 18 today. So Cahill deputized in the center. Rudiger on the left, Azpilicueta on the right. Considering how little threat Brighton offered, I'm not sure it really mattered who played in what position. They did all right. Then the midfield five of Alonso and Moses as wingbacks, Bakayoko, Kante, and Fabregas across the middle. Kante, the deepest of the three, Fabregas doing his usual thing, and Bakayoko often joining the front line as a front three. I'm sure there'll be many opinions about Bakayoko. He was probably the least or the most anonymous of all the players today. But it is what it is. I would have personally liked to seen Drinkwater start today, just because it was a home game. We kind of expected Brighton to pack the box, and play with the deep lines. So having another passer, another runner like Drinkwater is fine. Would have been better, I think, than Bakayoko's lack of confidence there. But maybe his strength and his height was what we were going for. And Ram says because Drinkwater is better. Yes, well, it's a matter of opinion now, isn't it? But sure, let's say Drinkwater is better. Doesn't matter. Then up front, we had the dynamic duo of Hazard and Morata. Morata coming back from... people want Matic back. Oh, come on, man. That ship has sailed a long time ago. We just tend to forget how often we leveled similar criticisms at Matic than we have at Bakayoko this year. Morata back after his rather ill-advised and ill-timed suspension against Everton. Only a little bit of the drops and the flops today from Chelsea's number 9 there, especially after his goal in the second half. We've talked many times before about the confidence game with Morata. Once that one thing goes right, then he's basically a world beater. When that first thing goes wrong, then it starts the little. Is it gonna be one of those days for Morata again? But overall, I thought he played pretty well. Obviously, got his goal, which is always good for a striker. There are a couple instances, especially in the second half, when he held the ball up really well. I thought, even surrounded by 2-3 players, getting a couple kicks. The only thing was he got hit in the head a couple times, which he seems to not like, which is interesting for somebody who goes for a lot of headers. But whatever. I mean, head injuries and all that, it's important. That's what they say. And of course, playing off of Morata was Eden Hazard. He was all right. Not one of his best, I don't think. Not one of his worst. Got a nice little Achilles raker early on from, I forget who it was. One of Brighton's midfielders, Stevens maybe. So that was a nice little welcome to the game. Had early on, actually, it kind of looked like Hazard might be one of those days where he just goes off. Actually, went for a shot, which, it's Eden Hazard. It almost never happens. Created his own shot, went wide. But, decent outing from Hazard, and he was the first man off, so it's good to get him some rest. Um, and then our bench being so Willian came on for Hazard, then Batshuayi came on for Morata for the final 10 minutes, and Drinkwater finally came on for Conte for the final 5 minutes. Unused subs of Caballero, Pedro, everyone's favorite right back Zappacosta, and Ethan Ampadu. Hazard was man of the match for Chuck, really? I mean, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if anybody really stood out to me that much. I thought Conte had a very good game off the ball, slightly less so on the ball. There's a couple egregiously misplaced passes from Conte today that I recall, which kind of knock him off for me. But he was very good off the ball, as one would expect. He apparently, they're making a big deal out of this, but Conte was named the French Player of the Year by France Football Magazine, which I don't know why we suddenly care about what a magazine thinks, but this is like front page news on ChelseaFC.com and all that. I mean, Conte was already named Player of the Season at the end of last season by, like the French FA and the Players Association, which tend to be the awards that you care about, and suddenly we care about this, France Football Magazine. Well, there you go. Conte, France Football's Player of the Year. Should have signed Fabinho instead of Bakayoko. That's possibly a decent shout, but I don't know if is Fabinho still at Monaco. I mean, it's a change of it's a big step up sometimes. That's all. I think Troy says, how long do we give Yoko Ono until he ruins the group? How long do we give Yoko Ono? He ruined the group. I don't think Vaca has been quite that impactful at Chelsea. I think we still have to remember that Bakayoko has basically played most of the season while still injured, and he's played a lot more than we want, or like what we probably planned for him to play. Again, either through Conte's main plan was to get him in as backup to Matic for a season. That didn't quite work out because Matic didn't want to play that game. But and then everybody got hurt, so we were stuck with Fabregas and then a half-fit Bakayoko. So I think a lot of that has affected the way he settled, at least on the pitch. Off the pitch, he seems fine, despite speaking no English whatsoever. But yeah, as Ariel says, he's still very young, and I think that's really easy to forget because he's a big boy. I mean, 6'6" whatever, and he's often the biggest man in midfield there. But he is still just 23, so yeah. I mean, he might be the new Torres in front of goal, but maybe that's probably not his main forte, right? We didn't get Bakayoko for his goals. Conceivably, we got him to help us control the midfield, and there's been at times when he's looked really good, either in a 2 or a 3. So yeah, I think he'll come good. We'll give him this first season to be kind of the settling season, and then next year him and Conte are going to dominate all the way to the title. You heard it here first, or second, or third. Is the league over? Yes, the league is over. In terms of the title race, the league is over. I don't think Manchester United or Manchester City are going to mess this one up. As far as the top 4 or second place, there's nothing done there, and that's a big fight for us, for United, whoever one of Liverpool, Arsenal, and Spurs. Only one of those will likely make the top 4, and that's going to be an interesting race for them. It's gonna depend on who messes up the least. Spurs looked really good today in the early game, beating whoever they beat 5-2. Doesn't quite matter. Southampton. I mean, they look good, but it's Spurs. Arsenal, Liverpool are summed up by that 3-3 draw the other day on Friday. So, for them it's going to be who can find consistency. But it's yeah. So in terms of being the title, that is over. But to think that the league itself is over, that we have nothing to fight for, after City were basically crowned champions already, there's all these headlines like, what are these teams have to fight for? What is even the point? But there's a lot to fight for. A lot of it sounds not as impressive. Nobody wants to be like, oh, we want to finish top four unless you're Arsenal. But it is what it is what we need to do now. Get all the points we can. 3 points today. Hopefully 3 points on Saturday. Hopefully United continue to mess up at inopportune times. Maybe cause a little meltdown there for Mourinho. It is after second season now, so it's getting there. Yeah. Draw Chester. That's not bad. Draw Chester. Please remind everyone what position Bakayoko plays. Yeah, we just talk about that, right? I mean, I'd like to see him finish at least one of those chances, because you think, I mean, he is a good player. He's got some skills, but as Conte said, he's good at the off the ball stuff, and he needs to improve with on the ball in possession. And when he gets into the box, he needs to finish those chances. Well, same could be said for our buddy Drinkwater too. I mean, he missed a couple really good chances that one time in that one game. I know I don't remember what game it was, but it's the one when he played instead of Bakayoko in the 5 and made several excellent runs into the box, and Hazard found him, and then Drinkwater couldn't finish, and that was disappointing because those are the chances that he needs to finish, or whoever plays in that position, the shuttling position. That's why we often have seen Pedro play there, because he's conceivably a better finisher, although you wouldn't have known that against Everton. So that's this finishing thing is not unique to Bakayoko or Pedro. So it's been a malaise affecting Chelsea in the last couple of months for sure. So it was nice to see us actually get a couple goals today. Maybe we can build on that now. Finally, get into some sort of rhythm, some sort of groove, goal scoring habit. Where are we weak according to me? I think the weakest we are remains depth. I think our first choice lineup is good enough kind of to compete with anybody. It's we have the coach, we have the players to ideally compete with everybody. The problem is we don't have enough quality depth to not run that first choice team into the ground. So I'd like to see a backup left back for sure, or possibly somebody to challenge Alonso. That's fine. I mean, I'm okay with Alonso as our starting left wing back. I know a lot of people aren't, but Alonso quietly contributes with a lot of goals we saw today, assists, play out wide. He's different than Moses. Moses will take on a player ideally. Alonso is a bit more static, but he also provides height, an outlet for Courtois or whoever, and that's a feature that we often saw with Ivanovic too when he used to play on the left or on the right. Liverpool have taken the lead. That's annoying. So I mean, I think Alonso won't be as easy to replace as we think. Even if you get somebody like Alexandro, he certainly would provide a fantastic option on the left. I'm not sure if he would automatically get Conte's vote over Alonso, but we need somebody to at least rotate with Alonso, and somebody not named Kennedy. As much as I like Kennedy as an idea of somebody who might work out for us, we need some actual quality and ability on the left wing there. So that's my main concern. The other concern is a striker, backup to Morata. Not that I don't like Batshuayi, but I don't think Conte rates him, so we need somebody that Conte is actually comfortable with playing, so we don't end up having to play Hazard as a center forward, which is not a good plan as far as I'm concerned. So those would be my two main areas of concern for January. I keep repeating this a lot, but Chelsea don't make a lot of business acquisitions in January, at least not since we splashed the cash on Torres and David Luiz back in 2011. Now was it? So yeah, I would not expect a 50 million or 70 million or 80 million pound signing in January, and wouldn't really expect them in the summer either. That's a lot of money, but definitely not in January. Yeah, and I think we've been pretty lucky that Alonso has not gotten injured basically at all since he arrived. And I mean, we saw Conte. We thought Conte was indestructible, and we saw him go down with a hamstring injury earlier this season. We think Azpilicueta is indestructible, but he could get injured at any time too. And Alonso has stayed remarkably healthy. I think he's the only wingback we've had in the squad since he arrived who hasn't been injured at some point or another. So I think that's pretty lucky there. And eventually, law of averages or whatever. I don't know if that applies to injuries, but I think it applies to muscle injuries and that sort of things. And the more he plays, the more likely it will be that he does pick up something. So he needs somebody to spell him in, not just in the useless cup games. I mean, in January we'll have the FA Cup against Norwich. Hopefully we win that, so we have another FA Cup match later in January, plus 2 League Cup games against Arsenal. So there are 4 games there where conceivably Alonso will get rotated. Although whether he gets rotated for the League Cup games now is debatable. I mean, it's the semi-final. It's Arsenal. So do you really trust Kennedy there? So that does give him a little extra breather, I suppose, if we only play him in the league games. But otherwise, yeah, he needs some actual support. Justin Kluivert is an interesting name, as one I've seen pop up a couple of times, but unfortunately, I'm not particularly familiar with Justin Kluivert. If he's anything like his dad, we'll be fine. But that's your analysis right there. Bakayoko was the caretaker at Monaco. Oh, Mike Humphries, that's a little harsh. He's not that bad. Jamie Vardy is an interesting option, as is Riyad Mahrez, and since both of them, or neither of them, are cup tied for the Champions League, I'd expect them to feature a lot in transfer rumors this January. Yeah, I mean, I could see us buying Mahrez or Vardy even. Certainly, Mahrez looked like he was ready to leave in the summer already. I mean, he was the one trying to pull the whole "I'm gonna drive to another team's training ground and hope they sign me," but didn't quite work out for him. And he certainly last season he had a bit of an off season, but he seems to be back to his kind of best. I mean, he is a one-time player of the year in the Premier League, so he certainly has that quality to add to a team's attack. I don't know if really an attacking midfield is what we need. But that said, well, especially if we continue playing a 3-5-2, as it is, we can't really find enough minutes for Willian and Pedro. Really, that would we can measure it with their status as players. So adding another option to that mix, possibly not the best idea. If we do go back to a 3-4-3 more often, then yeah, having another option there would be interesting. Musonda has not been used much, but he was theoretically our 5th attacking midfielder. He's likely to go out on loan now that he signed his new contract. So yeah, having a fifth quality option in attacking midfield, or whatever, 4th, is would be decent. But that's assuming we go to a 3-4-3 more often, which I'm not sure we would. But I think I don't know. A striker seems like a bigger bigger need, or maybe we just need to continue waiting for Batshuayi to earn the trust. That's one of these days. One of these days. Conte, Drinkwater, Mars, and Vardy. Yep, we're assembling the Leicester All Stars here. That's the goal. What happened to Williams' first touch? Well, maybe you just needed to warm up a bit more. I think his first touch is fine, but that was a little unlucky there. On the right touchline when he lost the ball. I think that's what you're referring to. His first touch is fine. You know, his other qualities. We all know Williams' tendency to annoy with a few things that he likes to do. The whole stand on the ball, slow it down, quick move to the right. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. Williams a good backup. We just need to make sure he continues to stay happy and give him the starts that he hasn't been getting so far this season. I mean, both he and Pedro made 4 consecutive starts over the last couple of weeks, so as well. That rest was well needed for them. They've looked a little leggy, as they like to say. Looked a little not up to their usual quality. Anyone want PSG possibly coming over due to financial fair play? FFP? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really heard. You would think they need to sell somebody just because there's no way they'd be able to comply with financial fair play at this point. But we thought there'd be no way they could sign Neymar and Mbappe at the same time, and yet here we are. When you're state sponsored by whoever, Qatar, they can cook the books however they want. When the sponsorship and everything else is from the same company. We just need Abramovich to sponsor the team as well. Get rid of Yokohama and whatever Abramovich's company is these days. I don't know, as he still owns Sibneft or whatever, or just get the Russian government to sponsor us. It's how the big boys do it these days. We got PSG sponsored by Qatar. We got Manchester City sponsored by Abu Dhabi, the Emirates. So it's the way forward in modern football. You heard it here second. Any report on David Luiz? Nothing new that I've heard. There was a video released last week, was it? One of the Chelsea unseens that showed him actually walk out with the rest of the team to the training, but then just train on his own on the sidelines, just doing some light, agility work, running some cones. So that's a good sign. It's one of those weird injuries where nobody's putting any timeline on it. Of course, that could be because it's not really a real injury, but I think by this point we can assume that it is, that he actually has a knee issue. So he was back running. That's what we know. There was a report that said he's aiming to be back before the end of January. Of course, it was framed by the transfer window. So, like, the story being he wants to be back before the end of the window so he can be sold or moved on. But don't think that's happening, really. In the summer, I could see that because he will be down to his last year in his contract. And of course, he's over 30, so we don't extend players over 30 for more than a year. So if there is an actual conflict, David Luiz could be the next Diego Costa story. Speaking of which, Costa should be back in next week. That will be interesting. But yeah, I think David Luiz remains He remains out, and hopefully he'll be back in a Chelsea shirt before the end of the season at some point. His would even if he has to leave or he wants to leave, whatever. But hopefully it ends a little better than this weird situation that's happening here. Is Leon Bailey any good? That's a good question. So Leon Bailey is this Jamaican, or a player of Jamaican origin anyway, who plays for he plays in the Bundesliga for Leverkusen, I want to say. And apparently we've been linked with him in addition to many other teams because he's the next great thing as it happens. The interesting thing about Leon Bailey, I'm assuming he's pretty good. I can't say I've watched him play a lot. But his statistics anyway are pretty good for Leverkusen. A good goal scoring output for a winger. But the interesting part about him is a few years ago we were actually linked with him when he was still just like a 18 or 19-year-old, and it was a super weird, convoluted situation where he came over from Jamaica, and then he was playing for Ajax, and he got loaned out to some team in Slovakia, of all places. And then he ended up in Belgium, I want to say, like Genk. So there's a lot of weird things going on with him. He was signed by like Nike when he was 15 or 14. So it's just an interesting situation. But I don't know. I don't think Leon Bailey is a name we have to worry about too much at this point. Yeah. Arnautovic, yeah, he would be a good backup, I suppose, but he just moved, and he's like West Ham's record signing, and he actually started scoring goals now too. So I don't think he's leaving West Ham anytime soon. Of course, if West Ham do get relegated, then it might be easy pickings there. That said, Arnautovic seems like one of those players who would really not mesh well with Conte. He seems just a little too headstrong and individualistic in that sense. But that's just, Conte managed to keep Diego Costa in line more or less for a year, but that's the most he could take with him. And I'd assume I'm not so sure he'd even manage that much with Arnautovic. There's a growing call for Troy to take over the live stream. A guest appearance. Oh, maybe. It's been a long-term plan to eventually do guest, or at least, guest appearances on this live Facebook Live, if we could ever figure out how to do it. This is the extent of my technical ability right here. So maybe in the future. Stick around. He's got a number one fan here from Jean Paul. All right, it's a growing mutiny in the comment section. Just reading Conte's post-match comments here. Conte says it was a good performance. We dominated like at Everton, but the difference today was that we scored goals. Conte said it was important to start the second half of the season well, indeed. And in this league, there's great motivation to fight until the end. What else are you going to do? You got to fight to the end. As we were just talking about it, there's plenty to fight for, even if Manchester City have basically wrapped up the title. Plus beating Mourinho to second place, I think would sit pretty well with most of us, especially if he continues his usual little self-destructive pattern there. It's a lot funnier watching from another team. A lot less funny if he was still at Chelsea. All right, Ariel is heading to City versus Chelsea. That should be interesting. You going to be sitting with the away fans, or are you gonna go all incognito at the home crowd? Remember not to celebrate if you go incognito. Oh, Jose Mourinho being all sour in his post-match press conference. That's classic. There's great motivation for us and the other teams to find a place in the Champions League for next year, says Conte. Last year, Manchester United and Arsenal finished 5th and 6th. We want to try to improve. Improve, improve, improve. Work, work, work. So yeah, there you go. I mean, the target is Champions League, of course. Oh, unfortunately, his coworker is best friends forever with Mangala. That's funny. Well, then yeah, just wear your Chelsea shirt under your jacket and it'll be fine. My Christmas was pretty good. Thank you for asking. Got all the presents I wanted, and yeah, spending it with family and the dogs. Conte says, for Morata, Bakayoko, and Rudiger, it is the first time to play in the Christmas period. It is not simple, but it is great to play with the atmosphere. With your family, they stay and they come to watch the game. Aww. Wasn't that nice? Yeah, Conte, everybody loves the festive season. At least the fans do. And then it's pretty classic feature of the Premier League. But then so is complaining about the fixture pileup in the no break. Conte obviously used to the break in Italy. There's a couple weeks that they get off after Christmas and the New Year. Other leagues like Spain and Germany also have multiple week breaks, but not England. And I think that's a unique feature of the Premier League that should not be lost just because coaches are required to rotate squads or work through Christmas. I mean, this is the case, and you just plan for it, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Most of the people have to work, a couple days after Christmas too. So tough luck. Oh, Hamza with the big prediction of Chelsea beating City at the Etihad. Another 3-1 like last season. That could be all right. We have to make sure that City don't finish the season unbeaten, which would be pretty annoying. Because I'm pretty sure if that happens, they would beat our points record too. So they wouldn't be like Arsenal, the quote unquote invincibles who drew like half their games. I think City at this point might just run the table. So it's up to us. It's up to us to ensure that they don't beat the points record, which is, I want to say, 95. So yeah. And Conte clearly likes Azpilicueta's assists. So that's good. Who doesn't like Azpilicueta's assists? Most unexpected feature of the season are pretty good. All right. So it's been, I think we reached the top of the hour here. Gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Conte refusing to be drawn into transfer speculation. I don't quite understand why they keep on asking him about transfers. He's gonna say the same thing every time. He just doesn't. He doesn't talk about other teams' players. And when you ask him about your own players, then he says, we have to improve, have to pay great attention, etc., etc. Dave is awesome and so consistent. Indeed, Dave is the greatest. Cesar Azpilicueta, the most unlikely, seven. What was it? 7 or 8 million pounds. That's a bargain and a half for future Chelsea legend Cesar Azpilicueta. All right, so Chelsea 2-0 today. The goals from Morata, his 10th of the season in the league, and Alonso, his 5th of the season. dominated basically from first whistle to last, very much like the Everton game, with the main difference of Chelsea actually scoring goals. Hooray for that, because we had gone 2.5 league games without scoring. So it's welcome, or 2.5. What was it? Five halves of football with just one goal. So yeah, we got shut out at West Ham and shut out at Everton. So it's nice to be back in the goals. Nice to see Morata getting back in the goals. Azpilicueta getting his 6th assist of the season. Fabregas getting the assist on the Alonso goal, which was from a corner. Chelsea remained third, but moved to within 1 point of second place because United hilariously dropped points to Burnley at home. Who would ever do that? Drop points to Burnley at home. But they did it even without getting somebody sent off, or 2 people sent off, as Chelsea did at the very start of the season. So now we're just 1 point behind United for second. City play tomorrow. Liverpool are playing right now. They're probably going to win. Arsenal play tomorrow as well, I think. Spurs played earlier today and they won 5-2. So Chelsea firmly ahead of the rest of the pack and closing in on United. Next up for us is Stoke on Saturday. Stoke are not as good this season as previous seasons, so that needs to be another 3 points before we go to Arsenal for the first of 3 games against Arsenal in January. This one will be in the league and the other 2 in the League Cup. So 3 more points here, and then a big game on the 3rd of January against Arsenal. So that Stoke game is on Saturday. That's a 3 p.m. kickoff, I want to say. Let's check that quickly before I say something stupid. It is indeed 3 p.m. So traditional kickoff on Saturday, and then the Wednesday game is a night game. So we shall talk to you after the Stoke game, I believe. 2-0 today, and a good win to start the second half of the season. So if you watched any part of this or all of it, I thank you. Thanks for all the comments. Even you, Troy. Even you. We'll keep you on the short list for guest appearances if and when we eventually do guest appearances on this silly little Facebook Live thing. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you on Saturday. Bye-bye.